Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing wonderful on this Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, depending on where you're calling in from. My name is Olivia Harp, and really excited to have you for our annual tax season debrief, where we'll be covering key takeaways and what's ahead. And so we're really happy to have you all. We definitely have some really exciting guests, some special guests here today, as well as a lineup of some heavy hitters from across the tax field. And so we're just going to ask you to just chime in, sit back and relax, and really just take in all of the amazing content, suggestions, perspectives, all of that good stuff that we have for you here today. And so just a few housekeeping tips. This webinar is being recorded and will be provided and available online within 1 week from today. All webinar attendees are muted to ensure sound quality, but we definitely want to hear all of your thoughts, reflections, stories from the field, and everything that you have to offer today during today's webinar. You can share that with us by typing it into the Q&A box. And if you experience any technical issues, please visit this link. As you know, we're on a new platform, and so Zoom has a FAQ page that can help you troubleshoot pretty much any issue on the platform today. We want you to get the most out of today's call. So of course, join from a quiet place, grab a snack, some coffee, settle in, get comfortable, and get ready to engage us with your questions and comments as you listen. The questions box is open for the entirety of this webinar, and so feel free to just drop in anything that comes to mind as we go throughout today's webinar. And always reflect on ways to apply what you learned here today to your work. We want to ensure that people get something out of all of our webinars and all of our learning opportunities so that they can return back to their respective roles and continue to make a difference and impact in their work. And so we have a pretty packed agenda today. We wanted to offer you with as much as possible. So now that we're all settled, we'll move soon into a welcome from the Wells Fargo Foundation, followed by a special VITA spotlight. And then we will move straight into our panel discussion, and we will then engage you all through a Q&A segment before moving into next steps and closing. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Lisa Price, the Vice President and Lead Specialist for Financial Health Philanthropy. That's a mouthful. Thank you, Lisa, for having us here, for being here today, and we're excited to hear from you.
Great. Thank you, Olivia. And yes, it is a mouthful. I am so happy to be here today. Thank you for having me, and welcome to the Tax Season Debrief call. As Olivia mentioned, my name is Lisa Price. I'm with the Wells Fargo Foundation. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. However, I work nationally. The work that I lead is centered around financial access and asset building programs, which includes the VITA program. And I've had the pleasure of working closely with Prosperity Now. Gosh, I was just trying to think. I think it's close to 10 years. It's been a long time. And specifically, that has been in supporting the VITA program. We really just want to say that Wells Fargo is very committed to supporting the important work of the VITA program. And we truly recognize the life-changing impact that this program can have on an individual or a family. When someone's able to access tax credits that they may or may not have been aware of, it can really be that, game changer for them. It can be the largest cash infusion that they see all year long, and that gives them choice to make financial decisions for themselves and their family that can really impact them for years to come. And so how they can leverage that cash by investing in financial assets, paying down debt, or establishing emergency savings can move them along their financial path forward. And so we truly, recognize the importance of VITA and the work that each of you do each and every year. So that's why we were so pleased to partner with Prosperity Now recently to award over $200,000 to 15 community-based organizations through the Prosperity Now VITA Support Fund. So that's something that we really, truly wanted to support and be able to support the great work that you're doing. And we hope to be able to continue to do that each and every year. So again, thank you for being here today and for your commitment to supporting VITA. Back to you, Olivia.
Thank you, Lisa. And it's always great to have you here for our webinars. I think I'm off video. Here I am now. It's always great to have you here for our webinars. We really appreciate you always creating the time and carving out the space to join us for these debriefs and different opportunities. So again, thank you, Lisa, for joining us today. And then I will pass things over to Clarice Williams, who is the founder and executive director of Webb's Training Center, for a special VITA spotlight.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Clarice Williams, and I'm an Erode agent and the founder of Webb's Training Center, like Olivia mentioned. We're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to empowering underserved individuals and families through financial literacy, tax preparation, and community support. Now, our right now, what you're seeing on the slide is where our headquarters office is in Herndon, Virginia. So if you're close, definitely stop by. Right now, we're continuing our VITA program in DC. We actually partnered with another nonprofit that's in the New America building in the second ward of DC that you'll see the address right there. But we'll go to the next slide. All right. So my specialty specifically is working with low-income taxpayers, tackling complex tax challenges such as audits, prior year tax returns, and IRS notices. And today I'm going to share the impact of what the Wells Fargo and Prosperity Now grant has supported our training center. It helped us to be able to extend our services, expand our reach, and go to the next slide. Oh, that's pretty small print, but let me tell you what it says. I should have enlarged it. So this year, the VITA program has allowed us to keep operations running through June 24th, ensuring that we continue providing free tax assistance well beyond the traditional April 15th deadline because tax season is really year-round. But during this time, we're helping taxpayers file their current and prior year tax returns, resolve or respond to IRS notices, and then, of course, address any letters they may have received to help them correct whatever issues they may be going through from the IRS. And because of this partnership that I mentioned earlier with the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, we're operating out of their location at 740 15th Street Northwest in DC. What was awesome about the collaboration, of course, collaborating with more nonprofits, is that they offered the space to us free of charge, which just made this opportunity even better. So between the grant that was provided to us, the space that we were able to use in DC is really allowing us to focus on direct services that we're providing to the community. But then we also use the funding to help retain staff. And that staff is helping with helping taxpayers file returns and then resolve tax issues. So while our VITA program was currently in place before receiving the grant, this funding has allowed us to scale and sustain our efforts. All right, and next slide. All right, so one of the most meaningful aspects of our work is, of course, helping families avoid the financial burden of paid tax preparation services. One client even shared with us that they didn't have to pay, they had to repair their car and it was over $300. And being able to save on tax prep fees allowed them to fix their car so they continue doing what they were doing. And these savings made a direct impact on what they needed to have happen. Right now, what we're doing is creating financial savings. We want to continue to build trust with the community by ensuring that everyone has access to the free high quality tax services as long as they're eligible. And then what we're doing just to make sure that we're tracking our financial impact is making sure that our outcomes are measurable. We're making sure we're looking at the refunds that we help them secure, the tax preparation cost savings, and providing immediate financial relief to families and individuals by offering this program. And by continuing to track these outcomes, we can ensure that our work is making a meaningful difference. All right. And I think we have one more slide to go. Nope, that's the next one. All right. So that was it. Again, my name is Clarice Williams, and I'm with Webb's Training Center. Thank you so much for this time and again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Carice. And we invite you to join our Q&A segment to answer some questions because I see that one or two came in while you were speaking, and I know that the wheels are turning in my head as well. So we're really happy again to have you on this webinar. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about not only your organization, but your role in the field and looking ahead and what you see just for the field of VITA as well as your organization as you serve your surrounding community. And so we will be heading into the panel discussion. We'll hear from Clarice a little later, but I do want to bring on Kara Cardati. She is our TON Steering Committee Chair, and she is the Director of Tax Assistance Programs at United Way of Greater Richmond and Petersburg. And so for today, yes, hand claps, hand claps. And so she will be moderating today's panel discussion. We're really happy to have her, and we're really happy to incorporate her insight, her expertise, her approach, and her perspective as we move throughout today's conversation. Kara, you have a ton of fans here on this call, all these hand claps. I could tell that we selected the perfect person to moderate today's discussion. We also have for today's panel. First, we have Alpha Balde. He is the program manager for Broward Tax Pro at Hispanic Unity of Florida Incorporated. And we also have Alphonse Piard, the director of financial literacy services at Saint La Haitian Neighborhood Community Center. And you all can feel free to come on camera as you're introduced. I'm sure the people can't wait to see your faces. Alpha and Alphonse were both part of our VITA Leadership Institute. They were very instrumental in providing not only help and support, but different perspectives and approaches to the work and just helping us to better understand the communities that we serve. We have Brad Martin. He is a VITA program coordinator, United Way of Southwest Alabama, and an OG Tax Opportunity Network steering committee member. I always love having Brad on our webinars because he offers just a lot of great information. I consider him almost like a tax encyclopedia. And in the same vein, we have JC Craig, a principal for JC Craig Consulting. He is our original friend of the field here at the Tax Opportunity Network. And so you're definitely in for an amazing panel discussion with these heavy hitters. And so with that being said, I will pass things off to you all. Kara, thank you, and take it away.
Thanks, Olivia, and I just appreciate the opportunity myself to be the moderator of this great panel. New friends and old friends that are coming together to share insights for you guys as part of the field. So we really want to take advantage of this time together. I also just want to say congrats for getting to the first, what I call the first finish line. I field this question often once we get to April 15th. Everybody's like, man, that's amazing. What are you going to do now? And we all know that the work continues. So we do want to recognize that, but also I'm really excited about the panel, and I'm going to jump in. Alpha, with the first question. From your vantage point, what worked really well for you this season? And are there any standout approaches that helped your team better support taxpayers? And Alpha, if you can hear me, you're still on mute. So
thank you. Can you hear me now?
awesome. Yes, we can hear you
All
now.
right.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Cara. So I'll start off with saying that I think that the one of the biggest takeaways that we've had, and we've tried this a couple of years back from Intuition, was that we start engaging or continuing the engagement with volunteers and seasonal staff throughout the postseason. So after tax season ends, there was this pattern of us just sort of breaking off communication until we tried to ramp up our volunteer recruitment and hiring campaign in the fall. And this gap sort of delayed our ability and compromised our ability to sustain relationships with volunteers and staff who are heavily active in the tax season. So, and this seemed to be really working well because this time around, we invited volunteers and seasonal staff to continue to attend some specialized trainings that we did monthly throughout the postseason, from May to June to August. We provided food and refreshments, and we held the training sessions at one of our conference rooms in our headquarters. area. There were 4 to 5 hour sessions facilitated by our lead trainer who's been with the coalition for the last 20 years. He's an enrolled agent in accounting with tons of experience in the coalition. We spent those hours on a deep dive into topics that we briefly or barely cover in the volunteer training sessions that we have in the fall. So things such as capital gains, education credits or benefits, Schedule C, expense documentation, and so on and so forth, amended returns. The class attendees, the size of the classes rose from 15 to about 30 per course. And that was really great. You know, people felt really satisfied and really inspired by the learnings and the insight, the further insights they received from those trainings to apply them to their due diligence, their performance for the upcoming tax season. And we were able to secure those individuals for the tax season. So we didn't lose the momentum that we generate and we normally lost through the postseason. So that was a big plus. We also took a hard look at our tax law training courses that we do every fall. We divvy up our tax classes into like 6 sort of weekend courses, and then several weekday courses. The courses are 42 hours in length, and it comprises of, like, again, Saturdays and then weekdays, evenings for those who work and those who don't have the ability to attend weekend trainings. And what we did with those training sessions was that we made it such that at the completion of every major training topic, we had the volunteers complete one of the certification exams that all the VITA volunteers must complete to meet our minimum requirements, of course, for our coalition. It was a great outcome because the goal was to have all volunteers, especially new volunteers, complete all their certification courses before we wrapped up by the end of the year, December. And we had about 119 of the 240 plus people we recruited trained, and of that, 84 of those trained volunteers were actively participating or were eligible to participate in our VITA sites this tax season. And that's a big increase from 53 the previous year. We also incorporated a new specialized training that was geared towards those volunteers who are new, completed their first year or second year, but still are considered fairly new and not as experienced as our seasoned tax professionals or volunteers. So we created a specialized training course for them, not having them go through our traditional training courses, 42-hour training courses. This was a small session course that was comprised of 2 weekdays or 2 Saturdays, excuse me. And the focus was primarily on the intake interview quality review sheet, really reviewing the sheet step by step, highlighting some of the errors or the recurring issues that we see from the site coordinators level when we're looking at and we're reviewing those tax returns and those tax return documents. So the goal plan was to really walk people through the intake interview and quality review sheet, highlight common errors and omissions that we observed in the previous tax season, conduct some exercises on how to conduct interviews, how to review, how to correct, and how to note anything that's substantial that needs to be noted for prior to tax preparation. And that was helpful. That was helpful for those individuals to really know how to button up their interview skills and how to really use that tax form to lay out the good framework, for the start of the tax operation process for the clients that come to our tax site, excuse me. And we did role plays, of course, I mentioned that. And that was pretty much that. So there was a couple of things that we did that I figured worth highlighting for this particular webinar. There's a bunch of other things too, but I'll just leave it at that.
Well, Alpha, thank you so much. I think what I took away from that is I hope that your volunteers within your program felt well supported, because I felt well supported in kind of hearing all of the great opportunities that you gave your volunteers, which is so important in terms of being able to build a quality program that really does shine through in your community with the common goal of helping folks fulfill their tax requirements. So I really appreciate you taking that time to kind of highlight for folks really the other supportive ways that you were able to engage with your volunteers. And it is a year-round kind of lift and work as we're kind of building out. I always say the tax season continues to give. It's not just April 15th. So we're always looking for ways to better our program. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to shift to Alphonse. If you can share, with us within your own program, were there any innovations or tools, whether it was really technology-based or really self-cultivated, that helped your site and program run more smoothly this season?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Kara, for that introduction. And yeah, I can say yes, because it's been 2 years that we introduced Calendly, for instance, to allow our client to set up their appointment themselves. And it was a kind of very challenging operation because we're living in a community where the great device, the digital device is huge because we have a kind of 40% of our client that are the older generation. So people who can't use or not at ease with the technology, it was very difficult. So for our second year using this, there is a really high improvement on that use of Calendly because they were able to set up their appointment themselves. The younger generation, it was very easy for them to do that because hey, they grew up with this. And then the other innovation that we work on was the tax withholding estimator on the IRS.gov because one of our uh, specificity of the clientele is they've been coming here, most of them at least minimum 5 years in a row. So those are people that we know, and then we've been observing that tendency when as their wages grows, they kind of negligent and later there's a kind of not paying too much attention to the withholding. And what happened when you pass $45,000 and they end up probably returning some money to the IRS because they didn't, especially people who are single, who don't have that tax shield that children under 16 and children that are in college still at home can be, for the taxpayer. And I think the third one that I want to mention is since we are confronting to a high rejection since probably 2 or 3 years, we emphasize the use of IDME as a prevention to this. And then we will do, especially people we have who have that difficulties, we'll do on Saturdays. We'll put their appointment on Saturdays, and we have time to go through IDME to the IRS website and go to pick up their information returns, which is mostly their their IPIN if they need it, and then their 1095A, which is a big problem in my community because people don't know they have it most of the time. So I would say this is 3 point, right? We have that calendar that is people are using better now, mom. And then we have the employee withholding the W-4 that we prepare for them to prevent any further I would say, debt with the IRS. And we use the IDV to access the website to get the information returned. I think those are the three, Kara, if you want, the three challenge that we face through the last maybe 2, 3 years. And we try to kind of address proactively this year.
Hans, thanks for highlighting those. I know it sounds like maybe the uptake on the Calendly piece. So Calendly, I hear that you're saying Calendly, that's like the online registration, appointment setting software or subscription. that your taxpayers could use to set their appointments with your different partner locations
That's correct.
directly.
That's correct. That's correct. But we have we're only one side. We don't have
Okay.
that means we're part of a coalition, but we're one side, high capacity, producing about 800 to 1,000 return a year. So
Gotcha.
that we had to use that because otherwise it's really a kind of mess. You got people coming in and then they expect you to be seen. So we have to put it by appointment. And the best way to
Gotcha.
do that is to go to calendar. The only downside I would think is when you have to cancel one and then you send you send the email. Most of the time they don't read their email and they show up anyway.
Right.
But yeah, that's one of the downside. But it's better, much better than not having appointment at all or having appointment one person calling and it's not really practical to have only one person doing appointment, and you got various way to various option, I would say, to offer the taxpayer, the client.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I know, kind of making that transition from a walk-in site to a high producing, like trying to streamline the best way as possible. I think it's really important. Hopefully that will allow you guys to see more consistencies within being able to serve your customers. It sounds like you've been able to kind of troubleshoot as you've been learning from each season. So I'm really excited to hear those different opportunities. So thanks for
Thank you.
highlighting that. I'm going to switch over to my colleague Brad. Who I will say is always very willing to help others within our community, and I hope you share that sentiment with the larger group. Those of us that are here have learned from Brad for many years. And Brad, I think this question is really key for you. What feedback were you hearing from taxpayers this season, especially? And I know you've been doing this a number of years. What surprised you this season specifically?
Great question, Kara. The feedback that I've gotten, what I would say the most overarching theme of the feedback that I've gotten is just gratitude. Um, in the 14 years that I've been doing this, I really think taxes have gotten more complicated for people and they're intimidating to a lot of people. And our numbers have continued to grow. People have found out about our program and are very just expressive of how grateful they are that there's somebody to do this work for them. The other thing that I've experienced is when I ask new tax clients um, how they found us, which is always a question I ask somebody when we have not done their taxes before. Almost exclusively, it's word of mouth. And so what that tells me is you can do all the social media push and whatever you want to, but what's driving people to us is my sister told me that she used y'all, or my church member told me that they use y'all, or whatever it is. So word of mouth has been really driving the traffic to us. The other feedback we've gotten is a lot of questions, and I'll just leave it at two of them. One is of course all kinds of things that people have heard in the news, and wanting to know about tax changes, and we just tell them, when we know, we'll tell you. But right now, anything we would try to tell you about what's going to change for your tax situation other than what happens in your own life is speculation. But the other thing that people are asking us a lot is, why do I owe? We're seeing a lot, and this is what really surprised us. We've seen so many people who are on Social Security and retirement going back to work. And so going back to the last comments, figure out for people how to deal with their W-4s and their W-4Ps and their W-4Vs and all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And I think that has been really, we always see a lot of people that owe, but the large dollar amounts and just the number of people who are going back to work at 70 and 72, so they're working and drawing RMDs is kind of stunning. So, I had to make my computer stop talking. Anyway, so that's what really but the feedback I've gotten has been gratitude, and I hope that the rest of you have experienced that as well. There have been years when we've talked about unruly taxpayers, and really people are just grateful that there's somebody who will do this work for them, is my experience.
Awesome, Brad. And I'll also just share, I'm seeing a lot of hearts and thumbs ups from the participants on the call. I think every one of us that's going to be part of this field gets into it for various reasons, but ultimately everybody wants to be able to help our fellow community members. That's what drives us giving time and so much attention to detail. It is always wonderful to have new people find all of our programs for the first time, especially if we've been doing the work for a long time. And that word of mouth really can help you be able to find a niche of new customers, which I think is amazing. As you kind of alluded, and folks have started, every season comes with challenges, and how we are so adept at being so resourceful and resilient. I think that's common words that we all use within our programs to be able to do the work that we're able to do day in and day out. But it's definitely not surprising that we're having challenges. So I'm going to bring JC as part of our panel as well. JC Craig, love to hear your feedback on some of the biggest or most common challenges that were observed as you've been part of this field and such a large reach across all of us as well.
Well, I think the more things change, the more they are the same. So the biggest challenges are always like recruiting, retaining, and training volunteers. And I think a lot of the other challenges are just plain operations. So there are resources for you. I would encourage everyone to check out the VITA train if they haven't. So that's a good resource for training volunteers or providing supplemental training for volunteers that's available from Prosperity Now. I also say, if you're not on the listserv, get on the listserv, because then Brad will answer your questions off the listserv. So that is really useful. Once in a while, I'll pipe in providing stuff that is less useful, but I think those are important. But the reality is there's a lot of unique challenges to this season. And I think a lot of chaos coming out of the IRS was really a problem for people. So I think, do we take the taxpayer rights poster up, leave it up, take it down? Why has the intake sheet disappeared? Why has 4012 disappeared? What is all this craziness? A lot of concerns from people who really work with immigrant taxpayers about what they should say to them. Are they going to show up? They're not showing up. How do we get them back? And what do we say once we get them there? So I think a lot of that, again, the listserv is a very helpful place. But I think one, you can only give them like when you're what to say to immigrant taxpayers. You can only tell them what you know, let them make their own decisions. You're not there to be their legal advisor. You should not be their legal advisor. You are not attorneys, or you're not acting as an attorney at the VITA site. Two, IRS chaos. Well, the IRS itself was not creating the chaos. So what you can do as a VITA program, and remember, your volunteers are salt of the earth. Ask them to talk to their representatives about what's important to the program, what your program does for the community, and why having chaos throughout the tax season is a problem. Yeah. Every administration wants to make changes. They should not disrupt our work because of all these changes. They could wait. And I think getting that message clearly to your local representatives or to city, state, and your local officials that you need their support, you do great work for the community, and just reach out and touch who you can. So I think those are the two pieces of advice I have to deal with chaos. And this is not the first time we've had chaos coming out of the IRS. So just and this is you have a really strong platform to let your local officials know about the value you bring as an organization, and your volunteers are very significant because someone who does taxes for free is like somebody that's really engaged in the community.
Yeah, thanks, JC. And obviously bringing it back to, volunteers, you said, they're the salt of the earth. We all couldn't do the work that we're able to do without our volunteers, and being able to celebrate them day in and day out, I think is really key and important. But just being around others, in terms of practitioners and being supportive. I know you mentioned the listserv and the other resources that are available. One thing I learned almost 20 years ago when I got connected to doing this work was, even though I may be in an organization or running a site on my own, I'm not always alone, because there's great people all across the country that are always willing to give their time and attention, those included here on the panel as well, to be able to support other practitioners. So definitely take this time and brainstorm and reach out and share ideas, I think, that are really key. So I'm always big on collaborating. We do have some time left, so I'm going to keep going with our panel and shift back to Alpha. As we, I don't say quite shifting, not sure if we're ready to say shifting into next year, but we know that happens pretty quickly and concurrently, as we're kind of still doing postseason work. So Alpha, in terms of looking ahead next year, what's one change have you thought of that you're planning to make based on what you've learned this season? If you've gotten to a space where you're ready to kind of talk about that, would be great.
Thank you. This is a great question, because our intention this time around, and every year around this time, is to not rest too long. We know that we take a deep breath, because it is a full, intense, not just tax season, but pre-tax season from the fall through April 15th or May 1st, in this case with South Florida or Florida. But we are intent to start the processes earlier, the steps that we normally would put off until later on, because we're also fundraising. We're also, applying for grants, submitting our proposals for recurring grants. And so all that stuff is taking place. But we are not going to hesitate to just get the ball rolling on site scheduling, contacting all our partners to start getting proposed schedules, working schedules on the books, because they start their planning for the following year earlier. In many cases, working on our training plans. What training spaces are optional for us here, since the landscape of available training spaces in kind has shifted a bit with the leadership in the local universities and colleges. Identifying and recruiting potential trainers. I've gotten wind of 3 enrolled agents in the network that some of our partners work with. Well, let's see if we can bring them on to some of our to our training team to help us with this enormous task of training and retraining volunteers every year. Continued engagement, still hosting those monthly training sessions or professional development sessions to really dive deep in some of those top tax topics that I mentioned before, and also sort of emphasize some of the other technical aspects of that pertain to quality assurances. So really looking at the intake form, looking at the importance of notes in TaxSlayer, showing examples of what notes are helpful, what notes are not as helpful, just to get people's minds around this stuff and get people thinking about this stuff more so. And then really looking at alliances with other sort of VITA and TCE programs in the county that we work in. Oftentimes we're working in silos in this county, and we've had some experiences where we collaborated with other agencies or other VITA TCE programs, that there was success, because overall our effort and our intent, or my intent, my value, is that everyone has knowledge and access of these free tax services, regardless of which agency oversees the program in this county. And so we had a great alliance with one particular partner to help us serve clients in this sort of desert within the county, and we had fantastic success with them, with that partner. We had 6 mobile tax days, 7-hour days, and I was working at 4 of those 7-hour days. So I had a full schedule. We had 60 to 78 clients that we served at that location, and that was really a big thing for us. And then looking at ways to streamline our model of service delivery. We going back to not spreading ourselves too thin, which our funders have had a tendency to push us towards because they're emphasizing us being as everywhere as possible throughout the county. And we find that when we're doing that, we're spreading ourselves thin and we're decreasing our capacity to serve as many people as possible. So as we move back to this more streamlined or super site model, where we have less sites operating more hours, where we put a lot more of investment in staffing and resources, technology, and so on and so forth, we saw a bigger return. So we're going back to that, and we're really talking to our local partners and funders on the logic behind that particular model versus let's be everywhere, everywhere all at once, as a more sustainable and impactful strategy for service delivery.
Yeah, Alpha, thanks so
That's
much
it.
for sharing that. I think that's a good spot, as we kind of segue. You said, not spreading yourself too thin, with the potential for, managing capacity and burnout. So, I mean, I think that's a wonderful transition to Alphonse and kind of picking your brain to see, what strategies briefly, were you able to kind of use within your program to, to prevent these things from happening?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Kara. Uh, I think one of the things that we've noticed when we start this year, it's at the very beginning, because we open early. We open on the 27th of January, and we had kind of our appointment book full, and yet we still have 60% of show up from the appointment. So we were just thinking, what happened? Is it an issue they haven't received their W-2 or their tax document? Or is it the new situation? Because, there is a new situation since we're serving a kind of migrant, predominantly immigrant community with a lot of migrant over the last 3 to 4 years. So there is a kind of fear probably to come out and then to come and do their taxes, and then we did some outreach through radio, and from there we were able to understand that we have to be a little bit loose to invite more and more option in this, and we start accepting workings, and 2-3 workings a day, because we open every day from 9 to 5, so 2 or 3 a day, and we see we're able to growing all of this. Now, to avoid, if you want, the burnout, the all these challenges that can come up with that mix of appointment and your phone, we did host training with our staff. Everybody could substitute for another one. That there is nobody in the front desk. You will have somebody who come who know exactly what to do to prepare somebody to come and then to the first tax preparer before he goes to the review. We were able to kind of streamline our operation to the fact that to the extent nobody felt like overwhelmed, I would say, with a population of 20, maybe between 15 and 20 clients daily. I remind you, we are about 5 volunteers serving that population. So with 5 volunteers in and out, because we have in-house volunteer people who volunteer for the program. They are here. They work permanently in that organization with their own program, of course, but they in and out of the VITA help every day. So we were able to do that, and we're able to extend Saturdays. Saturdays is a key point for us because I think this is something we're going to work through next year to organize those Saturdays a little bit better, like super Saturdays, where we invite we're part of a coalition. We can even invite other organizations to come here, part of the coalition, to come and do that because we have a big parking lot. We have to, and I think this is feasible. And on Saturdays, we have the whole, I would say, the whole building for us, which is we can absorb at least 50 to 60 taxpayer every Saturday. No issue about it. If it's well done, if it's we have a good outreach, and I think it's feasible. We were kind of very happy to get that grant from you guys from the Purpose Ready Now, and then with this we're moving along to kind of see in what capacity we can implement this. We're seeing our partner. We're seeing our we're discussing with our partner the way we can implement this next year, how we're going to do that, and how we're going to insist on that cross training, which is very important because on Saturday it will really the key point that make us see about I would say 15 to 20 people every Saturday during what 8 Saturdays, which is not bad at all. It gives you about 150 more clients that we serve during the year. So that's the perspective for next year, and it's going to start probably within 2 or 3 months. As you know, September we're already on the ball with discussion with partners there in the coalition to see how we can be more effective in that service delivery in our community.
Thank you so much, Alphonse. I love the cross collaboration and partnership development that you highlighted. That really helps streamline your program. I know we're really running out of time. I'm going to run to Brad for a quick response to anything that you're still troubleshooting now as you're kind of shifting into postseason work and development there.
Yeah, the elusive thing that I keep running into has to do with scheduling. And we have an online calendar, which is great. And we have a phone line for those people who can't do the online calendar themselves, which is great. But what we have is a demand problem. And so for years, we've done a thing where we didn't offer the whole calendar at one time because people would book in February for an appointment in April and then get it done sooner somewhere else and not cancel. And in fact, that's what happened when we finally released the whole calendar, is everything filled up in like 2 days. And then people were calling in March and couldn't get an appointment, and we were trying to add spaces and get volunteers to work extra shifts. And so it was just chaotic. And that's not what I see as the last question. Dash, is this what I and so the struggle that we had was just trying to figure out, and we're still figuring out how best to handle that scheduling. Personally, walk-in sites give me the heebie-jeebies. That just stresses me out to have a lobby full of people waiting.
Okay, so what am I looking at? It's like 23. So I did 22, 23, and 24 for this year. It's all of the returns.
Hello.
Sorry about that. I think we've got
so
cross
I just thought
happening.
I pulled the whole report, and then under federal, I put the ones that were still pending. It's for every site. It's like a conclusive report.
Somebody's unmuted.
24 as well? No, each email I did 24, 23, and 22. I sent you 3 separate emails. I don't. Oh, okay. Here's one that doesn't have a year on. Okay, I got it. That was the first one. And then I'm like, oh, but we got more returns accepted that were 23 and 24 to add to the total. So we did.
We're getting some feedback. I think it's gone now. I apologize for that. We love online technology, right? I think we're all in it together. So thanks for bearing with us.
Anyway, that was the main thing that we were trying to troubleshoot, is just getting the scheduling right. And there are pluses and minuses to everything that we've tried. So we just have to figure out getting the mix right.
Right. Awesome. I think that's flexibility is key, with anything, being nimble as possible. I think that really helps our environment. I think everybody that's in it is in it to do the best job that they can. I've got one question, and I know we want to save some time for question and answer. So JC, if you, could be brief in your response, but any kind of updates, news regarding VITA and application this year would be fantastic to share.
Yeah, and we do have in the Q&A a question about the VITA application, which I assume is the grant, which should open up May 1st. I think what we do know about the grant is that we haven't heard anything, so we got to assume it's still coming, unless someone else. Oh, I'm muted. No, unless someone else here heard something. I would also say some of the things we've heard about the grant and applying is to maybe be careful about how you talk about some of the things you do. It won't change me doing anything I'm going to do as a VITA program, but I might be talking about ESL taxpayers. I might not be highlighting with the current crew what I'm doing around I-10s. I might not be highlighting what I'm doing to help underserved taxpayers as I do the grant. Another thing we know about the grant is that all grants, they're taking more control within the administration about how the grants work. There has also been a lot of grants cut and pass-through grants that might be sources of funding you're getting locally, or might cause more of your partners to be scrambling for funding. So there's a lot going around grants. I wouldn't say the VITA grants, I think the VITA grants okay and will be okay. It could be some chaos with how they're handling it this year. There's been a lot of chaos from the IRS. So that's what I know, but also realize there could be a lot of your partners locally scrambling as well.
Yeah, I think it's just really important to remember, like, the work continues, the day-to-day, work that we're providing for our customers still remains, and it's great to be so present, being able to serve our customers as best that we can with the resources that we have, and being able to partner and collaborate and share resources and information is always key. With that,
Kara, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah, no, go, Brad. Yeah.
no, I just want to say, I think we also need to remember that our friends in spec are also not sure from day to day what's going to be happening, having some conversations with some people myself. And I think we need to remember that, yes, we in the field are going to be each other's greatest allies at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think training and stuff like that, more of it may in the long run come from each other. And we just need to remember that.
Right. And there are staffing cuts coming in the IRS. So I think you got to rely on each other even more for support and maybe sharing of resources, because you may not have the same level of spec staffing that you've had.
Yeah. So I think it's just key to, continue with the course, and as Brad and JC said, being able to share information, ideas, always key as we kind of navigate day-to-day occurrences and happenings, and being nimble as well is really important. I think now I'll turn it back over to Olivia, that's going to guide us in the remaining 5 minutes. As we know, I see there's some questions that have come up in the Q&A box. I know we're also short on time, so I also just want to say thanks for your willingness to be part of this. I hope you found something that's useful, that you can take back, someone that you can connect with. I think everybody on the panel is willing to connect with others. Please don't hesitate to reach out. That's how you get really good resources and ideas to be able to share, so you don't feel that you're all by yourself doing a strange tax program that we're all so invested in.
Yeah, and everyone can feel free to stay on camera for our Q&A segment. It's a big party here. I always love being in community for our learning opportunities with the Tax Opportunity Network. I think early Brad mentioned that he witnessed a lot of gratitude from the community members that you all serve, but I can see that that's like a resounding trend across just the field, and what sometimes we refer to as the VITA sphere. I just love seeing like all of the support, all of the great resources and expertise that you all not only have to offer, but are willing to offer. And so given all the reactions and the hearts and hand claps, I'm certain that everyone on the call got a lot out of today's tax season debrief. I do want to take a moment to give a special shout out to our planning committee for the content for this webinar. They helped so much with determining not only what we cover, but the direction of today's conversation. And I can see just by observing that today was a success. So I do want to shout out Dave Saminsky. He is a CSA and tax policy thought leader. Also, JC Craig, who is also on the panel with us here today. You heard a lot from him, but he was very instrumental in planning today's tax season debrief. And also Roxy Caines, the Get It Back campaign director from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. We definitely want you to check out her work and her campaign to optimize tax credits. And so with that being said, we'll head straight into Q&A. We want you to keep those coming in, but I also want to ensure that you all know that we will have some sort of a follow-up webinar. And so this won't be the first time that we're all together talking about this information and just connecting with one another. And so I'm going to just hop in no particular order. I know we all talked about towards the end of the panel, how everyone's kind of relying on people across the tax world. I know we see that with the tax roundtable a lot. But we do have a question from, oh, we have a lot of questions, but we do have a question as people are navigating certain shifts right now. They want to know if any of your sites are relying more on local organizations or local partners and what strategies or I guess recruitment tactics you have in place to just kind of reach out more and connect to the sites around you.
This is Brad. I'll take that to start with. We have always found it helpful to work with our local RSVP. If you have a good relationship with your RSVP folks, you know, those are our solid as a rock people who come in every week and do taxes for us and stay long term. We've had the greatest success with those folks. One of the things I want to do this year is to have a bring a friend luncheon. Not the volunteer appreciation thing, but have your volunteers bring somebody that they think might be interested. I've never done it. I don't know if it will work, but I would like to give it a try because I really want, just as with our clients, as I said, almost exclusively they heard about us from word of mouth. I'm hoping that the volunteer space will function in a lot the same way.
And then I'll hop in with this question from Casey Lance. JC, I think you talked a little bit about the VITA grant and how you're filling it out differently. Did you have any more to offer around what specific words or how you would apply? Like what are you changing up? What is your new
I
approach to
I
applying? What would
I
you
think
recommend?
I don't think it would be a huge approach, but I would listen to kind of what you're hearing coming out of the administration, um, because this administration seems more involved with who gets grants and looking at things. So I think we also have concerns in some of the states, like states are passing laws that make it illegal to help undocumented workers. So we want to be aware. We want to be aware of some craziness that's happening right now. So yeah, I think helping people get the most back from the refund. I may not emphasize how I'm like working in, you know, I might not emphasize the racial diversity of my client base in my grant proposals for the IRS. They'll probably stay the same in my grant proposals to the United Way. But I think just be aware of, what did they attack this? They didn't want the civil rights posters up for whatever reason. Even though those also have a lot to do with disabilities, and I don't think anyone's against this serving people with disabilities. So I think I just like have your radar up, kind of listen to what they're saying.
I would just add to that, and as I'm in Alabama, so we always, when we're doing local requests, we're focusing on things that appeal to those funders, which
Right.
here tends to be we're working to serve people who are working and struggling to make it. That
Mhm.
that that appeals to them. Talking about diversity does not appeal to a lot of them. And so you just have to read the room and know that the room reads differently than it did probably 2 years ago or even last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people who work, people, is like, uh, people who work and did make a lot of money, that seems to be, pretty appropriate always with this crowd.
Okay. And I know we went over a little bit because I wanted to ensure that we could get in just a few Q&A questions. But again, thank you to everyone that came together, whether it be the panel, Clarice for the VITA Spotlight, Lisa Price from Wells Fargo Foundation. It was really great to see just the momentum behind the team effort, right, that went into delivering and creating this tax season debrief. We want you to keep in touch, and we'll be sure to do the same. We ask that you complete the follow-up survey. So if you want more of the same, or if there are additional topics that you want us to cover in upcoming webinars, we want to hear from you. We really want you to kind of like shape the direction of the learning that we do here at the Tax Opportunity Network. And again, we really appreciate not only you just showing up, but you also engaging and being an active participant on these webinars every time. I absolutely enjoyed today's session. I learned so much. And again, thank you all for joining. Thank you to everyone that served on the panel, our moderator, our VITA Spotlight, Lisa Price. We really do appreciate you all, and we hope that you all have an amazing day.